Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Angler Quest Boats, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, 29 stations across the great state of Michigan, and glad to have you along with us. And I've heard some rumors that we could be adding another affiliate in the next couple of weeks. Details on that as it gets closer. So how are you? What have you been up to since we last talked? Have you done anything fun? Have you had a chance to be out in the woods or on the water or any other such fun thing? Well, I certainly did. I spent last weekend in the UP, up in the Newberry and Seney area. I was up there to start preparations for my bear hunt and to meet my bear guide, Johnny Bowler. I'd talked to Johnny online, talked to him on the phone, talked to him via text, but never met him in person, and it was long overdue. Johnny suggested we come up, I get a feel for the area, I check out the baits, and I bring up some blinds and set up some blinds and put them out so the bears can get used to it. Now, that led to an entire conversation last week about what is the right strategy. Do you put up blinds, and I hunt, I'm hunting with a recurve on the ground close to the bait. So I'm using the portable pop-up blinds. In fact, I'm using the Wraith 270 see-through blinds from Primal Tree Stands. And so do you put them up early and let the bears get used to them, knowing that bears are very curious animals, and if you put these blinds up ahead of time, you stand a good chance of the bears molesting your baits. If you're lucky, they're just curious and they mess around with it. Maybe they bite a hole in it, and maybe they pull a window open or something. If you're really unlucky, you get an aggressive bear and he comes in and just shreds it. But that's okay. That's okay. And the other school of thought is you do not put the blinds up until you hunt. Johnny and I talked about this extensively, and we both agreed that it's better to put the blinds up ahead of time and let the bears get used to it. Because in my case especially, I'm not hunting until the third season, which was about a month from when we put the blinds up. That's plenty of time for the bears to get used to them. Now, are we taking a chance that if there's a truly big bear in there and he sees a blind, he will go nocturnal? Yes. Yes. But that's a chance that I am willing to take. So I went up, met Johnny, checked out the baits, put a couple of blinds up, put them pretty close because I am hunting with a recurve. We had planned on putting the baits up about 15 yards from the bait, the blinds up about 15 yards from the bait. Actually, the way it worked out, one of them is sitting at 13 yards and the other one is right on top of the bait at 10 yards. But that was the best place to put the blind. Again, we'll give the bears a while to get used to them. And with a recurve in my hands, the closer the better. I feel pretty comfortable at a target out to about 20 yards. But the closer the better if you're going to be shooting a bear. Johnny had a lot of pictures of bears on camera. They were coming in pretty regularly. But the 2 nights that I set out there, I didn't see a bear, which is not a concern at all. However, I think it does give credence to the argument that you don't put your baits up at the last minute when you're going to hunt because the bears may not come in for a couple of days because of the blind. So I think, in fact, no, I know we made the right choice. Did not see any bears, but did hear a wolf howl. I was hoping to see wolves as I was sitting out there. There are wolves in the area. There are wolves on the trail camera. But we did hear a wolf howl. In the middle of the afternoon, as we're out there putting up the first blind, we heard a wolf howl a couple of times not too far away. And I think that's cool. Do I like wolves? I like a small number of wolves. I like knowing there are some top-tier predators out there. Do we have too many wolves? Of course. Do we need to have a wolf hunt to thin them out? Of course. Michigan wolves do not have a fear of man like those in Ontario do, because the ones in Canada are hunted, and the ones in Michigan are not. We need to instill a sense of fear in the wolves in Michigan and let them know they are not at the top of the food chain, that man is. So yes, we need a wolf hunt. But I'm not one of those people who says we need to kill them all. And I get this all the time. I see it on my Facebook page and a lot of other places with coyotes and wolves. Kill them all. Kill them all. Shoot, shovel, shut up. Kill them all. I don't subscribe to that. Do they need to be hunted? Absolutely. Do we have too many coyotes? Absolutely. Do we have too many wolves? You bet. And we need to have hunting seasons. We do for coyotes. We need to hunt these animals to keep the biological balance in place. And we need to thin out the wolf population in the UP. So we need to hunt. But do I want to kill them all? Nope. And I'll be honest with you. I think when people make comments about kill them all, well, number one, I cringe, because I think it makes us as hunters look like bloodthirsty, savage morons. Keep in mind, whatever you post online is not limited to the hunting pages. Anybody in the world can see it. So when you go on, even on a hunting page or on my page, and you post kill them all, it makes us look foolish. So please think about that before you make such comments. And I'm not a wolf lover. I've been accused of, Avery, you're a wolf lover. No, I'm a bear lover, a turkey lover, and a walleye lover, but I'm not a wolf lover. I've killed a wolf in Ontario and would love to do it again. So don't lay that one on me. One thing I found very interesting when I was in the UP last weekend is the number of side-by-sides, the small ORV ATVs that people can sit side-by-side, and they go off. Well, you can go down the dirt road. You can go down the roads up there, and the trails and the two tracks. I had no idea that it was so big. You know, I see them heading north on trailers on the freeway Friday night and south on Sunday night, and I figured, well, they're going up north somewhere. But I found the Mecca, the haven. And it was really pretty cool that these side-by-side ATVs, it looks to me, have become almost as popular as snowmobiling in the wintertime. And I thought that's pretty cool. That's another side of enjoying the outdoors that I don't participate in, that I don't really think about, but it's valid, it's legal, it's fun, and so I'm going to support it. Somebody just posted, I'm doing a live Facebook thing, somebody just posted, have you heard of baiting as a go for this year? No, baiting is not a go. Do not look for baiting to come back in Michigan. I don't know how many times I can say this. Do not look for baiting to come back in Michigan for whitetails in the near future. But that's a side note. I get distracted here. The blinds that I'm using up there, the Wraith 270s from Primal Tree Stands. The folks at Primal last week, in fact, on the show, Bob Ransom announced out of the blue that promotion has been extended. If you go outdoorpregame.com, use the promo code Mike20, you can get one of those blinds for $200. That is a tremendous price. People say, why do you like ground blinds so much? I like hunting from the ground because it's safe. The blind helps contain your scent, and you're protected from the elements. The downside of blinds in the past has been your visibility has been limited, and you can't see much if a critter sneaks in on you. But these new see-through ground blinds, that eliminates that concern. And in the past, like I've got a couple of the Primos double bull blinds, which are very nice, that I paid $500 for those things. Well, I can get one of these Wraith 270s for $200. That continues on. Speaking of gear, because we're gear junkies, right? I was thinking on the way up there, up north, I was thinking, I need a new flashlight because I tend to lose flashlights. So I don't spend a lot of money on flashlights because I know I'm going to lose them. So I thought, well, Jay's in Gaylord is just up the road. I'll pull in there and I'll stop and get a flashlight. So I stopped and I went back to the camping department. Two very helpful young ladies were there, and they helped me out. I said, look, I want a flashlight that throws a pretty good beam, but I don't want one that's rechargeable. I don't want a charger because I keep losing the chargers for my flashlights. They said, what are you looking for? I said, show me one with AA batteries. And they did, and there were several options. And they said, well, but why don't you think about this? And they showed me a flashlight called a Phoenix. I think it's Fenix. And it's rechargeable, but it uses a USB connector. So even if I lose the USB cable, no big deal. I've got a dozen of them around the house, and every party store and every gas station sells more. So it's not a big deal if I have to replace that. Man, you're talking about a cool piece of gear, and a piece of gear that sometimes we overlook, a flashlight. How often do you need a flashlight? All the time. This thing will fit in your pocket. And I have no vested interest in Phoenix. There's no sponsorship, nothing like that. I paid for it. They didn't give it to me. But check these things out. Very, very cool. Another thing to check out, this week I posted a video montage of my summertime walleye fishing season on Saginaw Bay. Yes, it is. My summertime walleye fishing season on Saginaw Bay is over. The walleye fishing isn't over, but my summertime walleye fishing season is over. Check out that video. I think it turned out very well. Also, details coming up on an outing that we're looking at doing for the fall of 2021. I realize this is a ways off, but a bow hunting camp with listeners and viewers of social media, kind of a Mike Avery Outdoors bow hunting outing. Details on that as it comes closer. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we're going to talk about Michigan elk with Brian Mastenbrook of the DNR. The early elk season is just around the corner. Coming up later, archery season with Paul Penix of Jay's Sporting Goods, Nick Bougia of the Michigan Wildlife Council, and Lance Valentine of Walleye 101, plus Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dave Minar. All coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9. You can hear us in Taos on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze, a Michigan company, by the way, is a safe, clean, water-resistant alternative to firewood, and it's safe to cook over because it's made from recycled hardwood. If you're one of those people who just can't start a fire, you need to try Speedy Blaze. Each package comes with, I think there are six Speedy Blaze bricks, I'll call them, but they're not bricks. They're made out of recycled hardwood. And 2 fire starter blocks. Anybody can start a fire with Speedy Blaze. It'll burn hot. It'll burn clean. We've been using it in the fire pit on the patio. Great for campfires, fireplace. You can cook over it. And oftentimes on Wednesday Night Live, we give away Speedy Blaze. And there's a big giveaway program coming up in September. More details on that. The website, speedyblaze.com. And people think I'm saying Speedy Blade. I'm not. Speedy Blaze, B-L-A-Z-E. Speedyblaze.com is the website, speedyblaze.com. Well, you know, with next weekend being a Labor Day weekend, we're starting to make that transition into fall, aren't we? There are so many things here in our state that are wonderful. I mean, if you love the outdoors in this state, you don't even have to be a hunter or an angler. But if you love the outdoors, there are so many outdoor recreational opportunities, so many beautiful places to go, so many cool things to see, so many different critters. And I'm amazed that in Michigan, even today, some people don't know that we have elk here in Michigan. If you've never seen a Michigan elk, you owe it to yourself to do so. And over the next few weeks, here's going to be the best time. Pack up the family, head to the Pigeon River Forest area, and check them out. Brian Mastenbrook has been working with the Michigan elk herd for many, many years. He's a DNR biologist out of the Gaylord District, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Brian, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Hi, Mike. I've been good. How about you?
Good. Listen, how is it trying to work in a world of COVID when you guys are all remote? And, I mean, is it making it impossible to get things done, or you're trudging through?
Well, we're trudging through. We're not moving at the pace that we normally do, but we're trying to prioritize and get most of the important things done. So we're getting by.
I know one of the changes you've had to make for this year is there is no longer an in-person elk orientation for your hunters, is there?
Right. We actually kind of recognized that would be a possibility back in May, and we started working on making the most important segments of the orientation available to people, over the internet. And they've been available to view, and then people sign an affidavit that they viewed it, so that we can say that they have attended it. And then they're coming up here. We have part of that. We got a virtual elk town hall meeting tonight where all the elk hunters can sign in and ask any last minute questions to us in person. We've had a lot of contacts with the elk hunters, as we normally do, but yeah, it's certainly been a different year. We enjoy the orientation because we get to see all these energized people, and I think a lot of them enjoy it too. But it's just one of those COVID things. We're going to get by, and people are going to be out there hunting elk, so it'll be okay.
Well, you want to make somebody happy, give them the news they've got a Michigan elk tag.
Yeah.
How many hunters this year, Brian?
We've got 100 in this early period, and then 160 in December.
When is the first season this year?
Well, it starts next Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
It runs for 4 days, and then it goes September 18th through the 21st, and then October 2nd through the 5th.
Are there two different hunts, or if you get a tag, you can go either season?
There are two different hunts. So this first hunt has 3 4-day periods, and those are the days I just talked about. And then the December hunt is 10 days, starting the second week of December.
Well, two different hunts, but really two different experiences too, because the elk are doing different things at that time of the year, and the weather's going to be completely different too. So luck of the draw, which one you get.
Yeah, it's both have their advantages. This early one, the disadvantage is it can be warm and there's full foliage. On the other hand, it's peak of the rut. It's right through the peak of the rut. So, that's an opportunity that not many people get, is to hunt elk in the peak of the rut. The December one is nice because we usually have snow cover. It's easy to track. You can, of course, see a long way through the woods. They're in big groups. And so, both have their advantages, and people enjoy both.
Do you see many of our Michigan hunters during this early season actually call and bugle like they would out west, or is it more of a spot and stalk?
Most hunters employ guides, especially if they have a bull tag, and I think many of the guides use calling and bugling to both locate the animals, and in some cases they call them in. Certainly, a lot of the bull hunters do that.
How many bull tags do you let out, Brian?
In this early period, there's 30 bull tags and 70 antlerless. And the ratio is about the same in December. I don't know the numbers exactly, but it's about the same ratio.
And what is the success rate overall on your Michigan elk hunts?
Well, it's quite a bit different. So September is about 77%, and December is about 87%. So people do better in December. The bull success is about the same in both. It's 99 or 100. People really work hard to get those bulls.
Well, and the folks who aren't successful in a Michigan elk hunt, is it because they just gave up and went home, or they ran out of time? I mean, it seems to me that if you are serious about getting an elk in Michigan and you've got a tag and you can put in the time, you can do it, right?
Well, it depends on your ability to move around in the woods. It depends on familiarity with the animal. If you haven't hired a guide, hiring a guide is a big advantage because they know a lot of this stuff. But frankly, a lot of our hunters are older, and if you're, not able to walk 6-7 miles a day and not able to see quite as clearly or hear quite as well as you could, and it's full foliage and you're hunting for a cow and you haven't hunted elk before, you're going to be challenged by this hunt. It's not a drive up and shoot an animal hunt. People work hard. Most animals aren't taken the first day, and I think the average is like 3 days to get an animal. So that means over half the people are taking more than 3 days. So that gives you kind of an indication of how difficult it might be.
And that's actually good to hear, that it is can be a real, I don't want to say real hunt, but it can be a challenging hunt. It's not just pulling up to a rye field and seeing a herd of cows and taking one in the first day. I'm glad to hear that.
No, it's not. That happens, but that's the exception rather than the rule. It is a hard hunt.
I'm glad that you folks in the DNR embrace hunting as a way to manage this herd.
Yeah, that's the tradition with this thing. When they started hunting them in 1984, that's our most current start. That plan was written. It said animals are going to be controlled by hunting, and that's all. And so that's, just the tradition we're riding the wave of. That's positive for nearly everyone. I think it is positive for everyone.
So are elk actually native to Michigan?
Elk are native to Michigan. They weren't really present up here, in the early 1800s. They were present in southern Michigan. It was a different subspecies, prairie elk. And they were common down in southern Michigan. And then, as the habitat changed and people were hunting for food and there was market hunting, they were wiped out. These animals up here are the result of a transplant from Yellowstone back in, they were released in 1918.
Oh, so these did come directly from out west. I was thinking for some reason they came from Pennsylvania or something like that.
Nope, they came from out west, and the ones from Pennsylvania came from out west too. So
okay,
we all have a Rocky Mountain elk. All these elk on the eastern side of the Mississippi are Rocky Mountain elk now.
So there was, what was it, the 60s? They were originally brought back in the 60s? First time?
No, they were brought back in 1918. There was a hunt in the 60s.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
64, and there was another one in 65. And then there was a break in hunting because the population went down. But we started again in the 80s.
So I'm assuming, I'm trying to remember, I was around, but I was pretty young. The hunts in 64 and 65, those were probably quite limited and controlled as well. So the population of elk didn't go down because of those 2 years of hunting, I hope.
Well, it did go down some because of those 2 years of hunting. They killed over 400 animals in those 2 years. But what really drove it down, so there had been a decline in habitat quality over a couple of decades. There'd been increase. The numbers were still going up. They were starting to spill outside of the herd. They had that hunt, and it was drawn the same way the hunts are drawn now, whereas, wherever the most people are, that's where the most licenses are going to go. There was a lot of local dissatisfaction, or not a lot. Some people were very dissatisfied locally with that. And so after the hunt was done, poaching increased dramatically, such that in 1 year they found 45 dead animals.
Wow.
Poached and left. And that's what they found. So, in fact, that was the year they did the survey, and they counted only 169 and estimated there to be 200. So,
hang on, Brian. Listen, I want to continue on this vein, but we got to take a break. We're talking with Brian Mastenbrook. He's he's a supervisor for the DNR, the biologist in the Elk area, the Gaylord District. Michigan.gov/DNR is the website. Michigan.gov/DNR. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in Newberry on WNBY 1450 AM. I drove by the WNBY studios last weekend. I wanted to see it, and I did. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you in part by Great Lakes Charter Training. If you've ever wanted to be a charter captain, I think this is your best option. It's how I got my license. Highly recommend it. Listen, if you're going to be on the water for hire, taking people on the water, whether it's a fishing charter, a dive charter, a sightseeing tour, sailing excursion, river cruise, a towboat, whatever it is, you need to be licensed by the United States Coast Guard. It's not a DNR license. It's a Coast Guard license. And the only way to get it is to pass the Coast Guard test and jump through a whole bunch of hoops. Believe me. Everything from drug testing, which, of course, it makes complete sense, to a physical, a very extensive exam. I passed it, and the only way I did and got my license was Captain Mel Stackpool and Captain John Littlefield at Great Lakes Charter Training. They have a series of classes around the state and online now as well, which is very important. Check them out online at glctraining.com. That's their website, glctraining.com. And listen, now's a good time to do something like that, glctraining.com. Now is also a good time over the next few weeks here to check out the Michigan elk herd centered around the Pigeon River Forest as the elk get ready to go into the rut. We're talking with DNR biologist Brian Mastenbrook. Brian, before the break, you started to talk a little bit about the licensing season and licensing system. And I realized, look, this is not your deal. You're not in charge of how people get a license. But you said something about licenses go to where the population is. Help me understand that. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that.
Well, so, I mean, where are most of the people in Michigan in the UP or Detroit?
Right.
So they're in Detroit. So that's where most of the license applicants are. And so more license applicants, and when you're having a random drawing, and it's not a completely random drawing, it's broken out by proportions. Like if 5% of the licenses, 5% of the applicants are from the UP, 5% of the licenses come from the UP. And 10% might be from the northern lower, so 10% from the northern lower. But we all know that 80% of the population is in southern Michigan. So that's where most of the licenses came from. And that's how it went during the 64-65 hunt. And, yeah, so I started mentioning there was local dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
I wasn't around. So I'm recounting what I've heard and read and what other people have told me. But this was probably a small group of people that were not, they're not completely in sync necessarily with the rest of the community. The communities of Gaylord, and I'm talking, the people of Gaylord, Vanderbilt, Wolverine, Atlanta, supported these elk when they were first dropped off, and there were only 7 of them. They supported them by not taking them during the recession or depression, the Great Depression, during World War II. When they were relatively low numbers and they could have really been impacted. It must have been a social, norm to not harm these elk.
Yeah.
Well, in 1965, some few group of people decided that they didn't think it was fair things had happened the way it did, and poaching increased dramatically. So that was a small blip in, again, the community support for the elk in this region. I certainly wouldn't want the community characterized by that.
No, and I didn't take it that way at all. No, not at all. Because obviously a tremendous source of pride. If you live in elk country, you've got something that nobody else in Michigan has. How big is the herd these days? You say it started out with 7 animals. How many do we have these days, Brian?
Yeah, so we last did a survey 2 years ago, and it's somewhere between 850 and about 1350 or 1400. So what we get is a range. We know it's in that range, and that's a little higher than we want it to be, which is why we increased permits this year, and next year will be the same number of higher permits. And we expect that to be tipping this population down to the goal of between 500 and 900. So we're going to be trying to move it down there over the next 4 years, 2 to 4 years, and then stabilize it in that range.
Why bring it down? If Mother Nature wants to take the herd to a given number, why not just let it grow on its own?
Well, we're having some crop damage along the outside. We're having animals spend more time outside the range in some cases than inside the range. We're having some range degradation in places. And so part of Mother Nature may want to grow the elk part, but the forest part might be saying, hey, you've got too many cows in the pasture here, and we're not going to be able to, keep the diversity we have if you keep all these cows in the pasture. So, it's a balance. And, we're at the top or above where we should be, where our goal number is. So we're trying to get it down there. Again, we want this range to be able to support these animals for a long, long time, and you don't get that by having too many animals in there for too long.
Gotcha. We're talking with Brian Mastenbrook. He's a DNR wildlife biologist. Brian, can you give me a few more minutes after the break?
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. Brian Mastenbrook, a busy man, as you can imagine, because they're coming up on the first elk season just around the corner. A lot of things to get ready for that, although a lot of the preparation this time online. I was at several of the elk orientation meetings, and I know what Brian's talking about it being a sense of excitement. Everybody there is happy. Hey, they got an elk tag. Well, this year they still got an elk tag, and they're getting a chance to go out elk hunting in Michigan, including a couple of buddies of mine. And I'm expecting some elk steaks, Tony. More after the break with Brian Mastenbrook right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Battle Creek on WBCK, 95.3 FM. And north of the bridge, let's go to the Sioux, ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, mucc.org. That's mucc.org. And keep in mind, you can save 25% on your MUCC membership on that website, mucc.org. Your new membership or your renewal, use the promo code MIKE, all caps, M-I-K-E, and save 25%. Right now we're talking about Michigan's elk herd with a guy who knows it very well, DNR wildlife biologist Brian Mastenbrook. Brian, I had a guy the other day send me some video. They were heading north on I-75, and a spike bull elk crossed the road in front of them, and they noticed it was hard-horned already. It didn't have any velvet, and their observation was that was weird, they thought, because the whitetails are still in the velvet. Do the elk lose that velvet? Do they get hard-horned earlier than whitetails do?
Yeah, they do. Most of them, I'd say the majority are probably rubbed out by now. There still will be some with velvet on, and that may go until just for another week or so. But again, we mentioned earlier, the peak of the rut is September 15th, so they're sparring, certainly practicing sparring, doing that kind of initial stuff before that, and they're certainly doing it by the 15th, and so they all got hard antlers by then.
Oh, yes, yes, hard horn. I should not have said horn. That's a pet peeve of mine, because horns stay on all the time and antlers drop, and thank you for pointing that out. What a great time, though, to see Michigan elk during this rut season. What's your recommendation for people who want to come into the area and find them? Where do we go? Where do we look? How do we see them?
So we've got on our website, if you go michigan.gov/DNR and just search for elk, we've got elk viewing area maps on the website, and suggestions for where to go and things to do. We have not. And so those are still good. And in fact, it's among the best. So, and it's not just where to go, but when. They are most active bugling at dawn and dusk, and they're most active moving at dawn and dusk. So if you're out there in the middle of the day and it's 74 degrees, it's very pleasant, but your chances of seeing an elk are are lower than they would be, at the end of the day. And I, will take visitors out in the evening, towards dusk, and just get up on a high spot if it's a nice quiet night, or in the morning if it's a quiet morning, and listen, because then you're going to hear them bugle, and then you can move towards them from that. In the daylight, it's better to move towards them from that. But so use those maps that are available. Those the viewing areas are kind of historic concentrations. There's no guarantee they're going to be there the day you're there, but there are probably some around, and if you can get a quiet night or a quiet morning, you're likely to hear one, or at least there's a good chance you'll hear one. And then if not, try a different spot. So hit the website, look at those maps that are out there.
And obviously you can drive around the two tracks, the back roads there looking for herds, but you can get out and just wander around, right? I mean, it's public land. We can get out and wander around and look for them, correct?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's state forest, and there are viewing areas marked out, but you can certainly walk out and around them. We ask people not to walk out, like sit in the middle of the viewing area, which ruins it for anyone who can't walk out there. But
sure.
You can freely go around on the state land. Drive where you can, where it's legal, and then walk wherever you can't.
Before we let you go, just a couple of minutes left here. As you look into the future here, there's no reason to believe that there's nothing but a bright future for our Michigan elk herd. I mean, you guys are managing it well. The numbers are strong. People have accepted it. Nothing really negative. No diseases, anything on the horizon at all, is there?
No, we've got TB on the very east side of the range, and we're trying to keep the animals, the elk-deer interaction down there. CWD is quite a way from here, we hope. That's what the testing shows so far. Other than that, EHD isn't a problem this far north usually. No, we don't have anything bad on the horizon. We hope to have another, who can look farther than a couple decades, but we hope to have at least another couple decades of good elk, and hopefully well beyond that.
Well, wonderful, Brian. And you've played a big role in this for so many years, so we appreciate that. I'd send people to the website, michigan.gov/DNR, and over the next few weeks, head to the Pigeon River Forest and check out these giant, majestic, beautiful animals. If you get a chance to hear a bull elk bugle, it is just, I got goosebumps in my arms thinking about it. And if you get a chance to see it, it's just a wonderful, beautiful, majestic sight, and it's so cool that we have them here in Michigan. Michigan.gov/DNR, Michigan.gov/DNR. We will take a break for the top of the hour. I appreciate Brian's generosity with his time, by the way. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, let's talk a little fall archery season. The archery shops across the state are really busy right now. Really busy, including the shop at Jay's Sporting Goods. We'll talk with Paul Penix, who is the manager of Jay's Archery Department of their Clare store, about getting ready for the season. What's cool out there? What do you need? What is hype? What is just don't waste your money on? Then Nick Buja of the Michigan Wildlife Council. And we'll wrap up the second hour with this week's Ask Avery segment, including a question about elk.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Angler Quest Boats, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here in the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, 29 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan, with the goal of promoting, encouraging, supporting, talking about the history and tradition of the great outdoors here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and all things outdoors, all things wholesome, all things healthy, all things biologically sound, and a way of life for many of us. A lot of us were fortunate to grow up in outdoor-oriented families that hunted and fished. I know that was the case in my family for generations going back and hopefully for generations into the future. But in today's world, not everybody has that luxury. And I hear from people all the time say, Avery, I'm not a hunter, I'm not an angler, but I listen to your show because I find the topics interesting. And that's all we can ask. And, hunting and fishing, to be honest with you, is not for everybody. Just like golf isn't for everybody, just like baseball's not for everybody. I mean, and that's okay. But what we do want is to portray ourselves in a positive manner so that those non-hunters and anglers, not the antis, but the non-hunters and anglers look at us with some respect and say, you know what, these people are stewards of the resource, they're stewards of the land, they have a respect and a love for what they're doing. And that's what this show is all about. It is a radio show. First and foremost, Outdoor Magazine Radio is produced, recorded as a radio show on 29 different stations. And I say the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. But if you can't, we do a podcast version of the show, and that's nothing more than the audio from the radio show made available somewhere online or somewhere other than your local station. I would suggest if you want to hear the podcast version of the show, you can go to the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, a clearinghouse for all things Mike Avery Outdoors and Outdoor Magazine. You can go to the Facebook page. I upload the podcast to the Facebook page every Sunday afternoon at 6 o'clock. You can find me on Twitter. I put it on the Twitter feed as well, also on LinkedIn. Or you can go directly to iTunes, to Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Radio.com, and just about anywhere you get your podcasts from. You can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine show. And I just got word last week about a major audio provider that is jumping over into the world of podcasting as well. So I think we're going to be available there. More details as that becomes more clear to me. Regardless, though, of how you are listening, I do certainly appreciate it. I sincerely thank you. There are a lot of things you could be doing with your time right now, a lot of different media sources you could be consuming, and the fact that you're hearing my voice means a lot to me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next weekend is Labor Day weekend, which is kind of hard to believe, isn't it? I mean, where did the summertime go? I know there's a lot of great weather still to come, but when we hit Labor Day in Michigan, we're starting to look toward the fall. A lot of people looking towards fall right now. A lot of bow hunters. Archery shops across the state are, for the most part, packed right now. I know. I talked to the folks at Jay's in the Gaylord and the Clare store, and they're both very busy. Paul Penix is the manager of the archery department of Jay's Clare store, a man who's been around the archery industry for a long, long time, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Paul, welcome to the show. How are you? I think we lost him. How you doing? Oh, there we go. Hey, Paul, listen, I'm going to ask you that question again. How you doing, by the way?
I'm doing very well, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to... a couple of years ago, I put down my crossbow and I picked up a recurve, and I'm still playing with that and trying to become as good with that as I can. And it's a wonderful challenge. But I embrace all kinds of archery tackle, from crossbows to compounds to recurves to longbows. But I'm looking forward to spending some time with that recurve. I find it very, very rewarding.
Absolutely. And let me say to everyone listening that Mike Avery is such a blessing to the outdoor industry. I don't have the vocabulary to put into words what this man does for us, and what he portrays and what he tells everybody that's listening is the gospel truth. And we just want to get behind him and be that good steward of the outdoors and do the things that he tells you. I mean, this is about as real and as, it's just the way it really truly is. There's no hype. There's nothing like that, And Michael, the reason that you love traditional archery so much is you do accept that challenge, and you do embrace that challenge. And friend, you are not alone. There are so many people that are coming into our store that have picked up their recurve bows again because they love the challenge. Isn't that great?
It is great. Paul, tell us a little bit about your background. I said in the introduction, you've been around the archery industry for a long time. Tell me more about that.
Well, my two older brothers were into shooting sports, and my brother closest to me, Ron, he was the archer. And when he went to the Army, he gave me his Shakespeare and his bear recurve and bear longbow. And that just set the fire burning when I was 8 years old. And I've just been shooting a bow ever since, and always loved it, always enjoyed it. Back then, we just shot fingers and instinctive, just like what you're talking about with the traditional bow. I never had any lessons. I just kind of watched what my brother did and my neighbors. And everybody on my street shot a bow and arrow. And it was really kind of cool. We'd meet up at one neighbor's house, and he had some Excelsior bales that we shot into. And we just enjoyed that and just had a ball with that. And then on with that, I got wrapped up in sports and played hockey and baseball and football and soccer, and did that stuff through junior high and high school. And when I got into trade school, the guy that sat next to me was the first PSE dealer in Northwest Indiana, and I bought my first PSE compound bow from him in 1975. And I took that up to the bales where everybody shot, and that bow had 25% let off, Mike, and people could not get their hands off of that because it was so cool and it had let off. And we have bows at Jay's Sporting Goods right now that you can get 90% let off. And when I tell people 25% let off, they said, dude, that's a recurve bow. I said, yeah, kind of. Yeah, I understand. But we had so much fun with that. And it was just, I just pursued it. And as I got older, construction was a little cyclical. And as I would get laid off and, things, bad weather or something was, they just weren't rebuilding the steel mills at the time where I lived. And I go get a job at the archery shop. And I was learning from them, and they would teach me. And in 1989, when I was working at Outdoor Days in East Moline, Illinois, PSE started dealer schools. And we tried to get into the first dealer school that they offered, and we called in January, and they didn't have any openings until June. And June of 1989 kind of changed it all, and we got educated from Master Coach George Chapman and Bob Ragsdale, who was just a tremendous designer and engineer with PSE. And Pete Shepley is, of course, a degreed engineer, and he actually worked for Magnavox on the Stinger missile project as he was starting PSE in 1970. So I didn't get the first one, but I was a few years down the road from when Pete started building compound bows. And I learned, I tell people this all the time, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I learned from the sharpest knives in the drawer, and I'm forever grateful for that every day.
It sounds like an interesting path, an interesting road you've been on, and it's led you now to Jay's Sporting Goods.
Absolutely. It has been one of those things, somebody told me a long time ago, I don't know if it was my pastor, maybe somebody in a Bible study I was going to, and they said, when God closes one door, he'll always open another. And, those things happen. You get a door closed, and God, just be patient and wait, and he'll open something else for you. And I have been so blessed and so privileged to be able to work at Jay's Sporting Goods. And if you ever get to listen to their theme song, it is, I don't know who wrote that, but it's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And it's the catchphrase is the gear, the knowledge, the tradition of Jay's. And Jay Poet, when he started this in 1971, he just, he was a people guy. He knew his stuff. He knew guns. He expanded from there, and he's had to relocate a couple times, and unfortunately, Mr. Poet has passed away, but his legacy lives on in his sons and his grandson and his family at J Sporting Goods, and that tradition is just treating people like you want to be treated, Mike. You talk to people everywhere I go, and every time I hear you speak to people, and you treat them the way you want to be treated, and that's what's one of the big cornerstones of what makes you the idol that you are. And
well, let's not get carried away here. I appreciate what you're saying, but I got to take a break. So I appreciate it, Paul, but. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll talk more with Paul Penix, who is the manager of the archery department at Jay's Claire store, about what you need this season. He talked about a 90% let-off. Is that too much? Is that hype? Is it real? What do you need when you head to the woods this fall? Paul will tell us about that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Caro on WKYO. That's 1360 AM. You can hear us in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. And you can hear us in Flint on Super Talk 1570 WWCK. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946, which means next year they're celebrating 75 years in the archery industry. How cool is that? They've got this big celebration planned, and I hope to keep you informed about that because it's a Michigan-based company, 75 years, leaders in innovation, product, customer service in the archery industry, and it continues today. Think about their Blazer vanes and the new versions of that. As I am headed to the woods this fall, I am set up with some boning products, and I would encourage you to check them out as well. Go to the website boning.com, B-O-H-N-I-N-G, boning.com. And by the way, you can find boning products at J Sporting Goods. And I bring that up because we're continuing our conversation with Paul Penix, who is the manager of Jay's Claire store archery department. And Paul, isn't it cool that here in Michigan we have companies like Boning and many others that have really been involved in the world of archery since modern day archery began, again with Fred Bear and such?
Absolutely, Michael. It is one of the coolest things when you look around at the analog of different people, different companies that have been established and stayed in Michigan all this time. And as a young bow hunter, going to Michigan or knowing somebody from Michigan where all this archery stuff come from was the coolest thing in the world. And to me, it still is because it's all made right here. They get all this stuff. They're innovating. They're looking for new ways to make archery better for people. And Boning is one of the leaders in that category.
You talked in the first segment about a 90% let off on a bow. That is crazy. Does that then mean that we should be shooting a 70, 80-pound draw weight because we're not holding it? Or with the technology and the efficiency of today's bows, is there really a reason to even shoot 70 pounds anymore?
Not really. If you're going to shoot an elk or a moose in Michigan, bear, you don't have to. But there might be, some of these guys that come into Jay's, they got muscles on top of their muscles. And pulling a 70-pound bow is like you and I pulling a 20-pound bow. And for those guys, they probably need a little bit more of a challenge and something to help them stay steadier. But for the average guy, 50 pounds with the technology that has come along in archery, the preloaded limbs, the capability of these cams to store the energy and deliver it to the arrow. Oh my gosh, 50 pounds is plenty. The legal limit in Michigan is 30, and it's all about shot placement. So this heavy pound stuff is kind of subsided exponentially.
What are you seeing out there this year? As you look at the store, the shelves and the racks there at Jay's, what are people looking for? What's hot? What's been marketed to the point that guys walk in the door and say, I need that?
There are a couple new sites. Broadheads are always the number one. There's as many broadheads as we have. People come in and they're asking for the new technology and the new capabilities of some of these expandable broadheads. And then some people, as you mentioned, you're getting back to your traditional side. There are people that are coming in looking for just a good fixed blade broadhead. And so we get equal both sides of the coin on that. And there are so many new offerings in expandable broadheads. It blows me away. And the thing that gets me the most, Mike, is when people come in and want to know where their broadheads are. I walk them over to the gondola or the wall where we have crossbow broadheads on one side, and then the traditional or vertical bow side is separate from that. And as many broadheads as we have, the times a week I get asked for something we don't have, that just blows me away. It's not.
What do you think?
We don't have
well, you've got a huge selection there. You got a whole wall of them. But what do you think of mechanicals for a lower poundage bow? Are they a good option?
They are coming up with newer bows and newer offerings on these broadheads that they do a great job. And I never thought I would ever live my life long enough to say that. And I apologize for all my gray hair, but Mike, I've been kind of a fixed blade guy most of my life, and not the fact that I haven't used expandables. I don't know. I just have this thing in my brain that I like the fixed blades. And we have some old stuff, not old, but old designs, and then they've taken these old designs and then they have added a feature in the bevel of the blade that makes it stay sharper and easier to sharpen after you've used it.
Which one is that?
And it is the Zwicky has got one, and then there is another one that is called.
If I wouldn't have asked you, you could tell me. You know that.
Yeah, there is one that has a 59 hardness on the Rockwell C scale, and that means that this stainless steel that this broadhead is made of is super hard and will hold an edge extremely long time, and it is very durable. And the flying characteristics of it, you see the way that the blades aren't straight. The blades are kind of curved. From the point, they kind of curve outward, and they're not cheap. And they fly good. They hit good. They cut like you can't even imagine. And this broadhead is one that Pete Shepley, the owner of PSE Archery, took to Africa. He took the 175 grain version, I believe, and out of a 70-pound bow killed a 3-ton elephant.
Wow.
That fed the tribe over there for a month.
Well, you mentioned the price.
And got a complete pass-through.
A pass-through?
Pass-through on a 3-ton elephant with 3-inch thick hide. Yes, sir.
None of these broadheads are inexpensive these days, that's for sure. One of the things I've been complaining about is the price that some of these bows have gone to, $1,000, $1,500 on a bow. But I was talking to a guy the other day, and he says, yeah, that's fine. That's a marketing hype. He said, but Avery, what you should look at is the middle tier bows. Take an archery, take a bow company and go 2 or 3 notches down from their flagship. You can still get great bows, great technology at a really good price. Your thoughts on that, Paul?
That is 100% true. Every bow manufacturer, Mike, the most expensive department in that whole company is the engineering department, and they spend the most time. They're the highest paid. They have that type of education to make that more prolific and make a stronger impact in the marketplace. And so, if you go back a couple years, you're going to get the bow that was number one a couple years ago, and it's half the price. And you still get that technology. Now, you don't get all the new bells and whistles, but you don't have to pay for all the new bells and whistles either, and you get some of the most some of the best shooting bows that deliver the most kinetic energy to your arrow and your broadhead that has ever happened. And it might not be the new kid on the block, but it is very efficient.
You talk about technology. Some of these new sights are crazy. What do they got? Built-in rangefinders in these things these days?
They do, Michael. They have built-in rangefinders. They will set the pin for you. They have a little button that you push when you see the object that you're aiming at. You push the button, it ranges it, and then it lights up the dot or the reticle so that you can aim and make a good shot. And there's no questioning. You don't have to go through, when rangefinders first come out, I thought, oh, this is the coolest thing in the world. And I could range something, and then I knew I didn't have to guess anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of movement. And I got busted more times than I thought I would ever admit on a radio show, moving around with the rangefinder. And then I got where I would just range find trees and bushes. And so I never put my rangefinder, I never pulled it back out. I did it first thing when I got in the tree. And then I would set these markers. And then sometimes they have these little reflective clip-on markers that you use for finding your trail or finding your tree stand. Mm-hmm. And I would use those to mark my distance. But now they have it right in the sight, and you just push a little button, and we attach it to the front of the riser, and it's right. I mean, your index finger's right there, and you push the button, and it lights it up, and you're all set. It's the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen.
Will archery continue to mimic the world in that we haven't seen the end of technology in archery? Will it continue to evolve and develop, or for example, have bows pretty much peaked out in their efficiency? Maybe with the materials we have and the technology we have, maybe we can't go any farther, any faster, any more kinetic energy.
Boy, that's, right now, I would say that these engineers, I don't know if they sleep at night. I don't know if their brain ever shuts off. They're always thinking of ways to do more, or to make something faster or more efficient or more kinetic energy. But with the materials that we're using right now, I don't know if that's possible or not.
Even if we peaked out, even if we peaked out right here now, though, we're in a pretty good spot. The equipment, the gear is. I don't want to say it's better than ever, but it's more efficient than ever. If you look at the stats, right, we've come a long way.
Absolutely. And some of the materials that they're using, even for the risers and the limbs, have come. They have come a million miles in the last 50 years, and it's the most amazing thing that I've been a part of it. It's been cool to evolve with it and to watch it and to be a part of it. And it's like Pete Shepley. He used to tell me he'd have to work out in the gym for 6 months, because to go to Africa and shoot the Big Five, you had to pull at least 125-pound bow.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. And you had to prove to the professional hunter that you could shoot it and that you could draw it and that you were proficient with it before they'd even take you hunting. And to go and kill an elephant that fed that whole tribe for a month with a 70-pound bow and get a complete pass-through is unbelievable.
Pretty impressive. Paul Penich from Jay's Sporting Goods. Appreciate your time. The website, jaysportinggoods.com, jaysportinggoods.com. Stop and declare and tell Paul hi and tell him you heard him on the Outdoor Magazine show. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 660 AM. Let's see if we can go north of the bridge again. Oh, yes, we can. Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. The segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. Great people there at Linwood Beach, very helpful when it comes to boating or fishing. They can take care of you. Storage as well. Check them out online, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. While you're online, of course, my website, mikeaveryoutdoors.com, and I would encourage you to check out here for mioutdoors.org. That's the website of the Michigan Wildlife Council, the group I've been working with for the last couple of years, a group that is dedicated to protecting and preserving our outdoor heritage here in Michigan. Nick Bougie is the chairman of that group and with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Listen, I understand, before we get to the business here, I understand things are busy around your place because you got a new puppy.
Yeah, I picked up a new English pointer a few years ago, or a few months ago, and it's been quite the adventure. So.
Yeah. Well, even just having a pup in the house that you don't want to hunt with is an adventure. But when you try to introduce the hunting aspect, that's a whole different ballgame, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've been pleasantly surprised. I grew up with German short hairs and the occasional Brittany, and kind of always had my dad around. The training responsibility has been fall solely on me, and this time around, this is kind of the first dog I've got full responsibility for training, and there's really the reaction I've gotten from kind of the dog training community has been really positive, and a lot of people out there I can pick up the phone and call and ask questions, and folks will want to get together and help me train, and it's been a fun experience and kind of a new community I'm getting involved in. So
is with a hunting dog, I mean, do you teach them to hunt, or is that in their genes? That's genetic. The dog knows how to hunt. You just got to teach him how to interact with you as the hunter.
Yeah. Yep. He's it's all there, and what I'm finding out is it's just my job to help put him on birds. So figure out which way the wind's blowing, but he does the rest.
Now, will you hunt over that dog this fall already?
Yeah, he'll be, keeping expectations realistic, but I've got a few trips planned up north to go grouse hunting, and actually I've got a trip with some friends out to North Dakota this year, and planning at least taking him along to experience a road trip. We'll see how much hunting he does out there, but I think it'll be a good experience.
That'll open his eyes. He'll get more bird scent in his nose out there than he ever will here.
Yeah, and that's the hope, anyways.
Well, Nick, all right. Good luck with that. I look forward to hearing about your hunting adventures over that new dog this fall. But let's talk about business here for a minute. Michigan Wildlife Council. You do have 2 official new members now, I think, don't you?
Yep, Jason and Elliot. There are two new members. They went through the appointment process and are officially on board now. So we had our first meeting earlier this month, and they've been two great additions. So
what are you looking at now? I mean, are you strategizing for 2021? Are you looking beyond that? I mean, what's the process right now?
Yeah, we're starting to kind of talk about what the 2021 campaign is going to look like. And who the target audience is. Are we and what that marketing campaign is going to look like. I know we talked last time a little bit about how we had to change that campaign this year and how things are looking, that we might have to do the same next year. But recently, I know last year you were at the unveiling. We did some mosaics where we traveled around the state to different events.
Yeah.
And, individuals could create mosaics of Michigan wildlife, and then those were unveiled at the Michigan Museum. So this year there hasn't been a whole lot of events. So what we have done as far for our grassroots campaign is we've done a scavenger hunt at John Ball Zoo, where kind of kids and their parents could go find some of the Michigan species that live at the zoo. And then the other thing we have going on right now, is a photo contest with the Detroit Free Press. It goes till September 13th, and you can go to freep.com/MWC fishing contest. And what we're doing is encouraging people to take photos of the fish they catch and submit them online, and you can win a family 4-pack of fishing poles. And really what we found through this whole thing is that what we've been promoting, hunting and fishing, is really the greatest activity people can do right now is get out in the woods or get out on the water. You can social distance, you can spend time with your family. And we've really just been seeing more of that, not only in Michigan, but I think across the country. A lot of organizations have started, social media campaigns like Responsible Recreation, and this was just kind of our way of trying to encourage people to get out on the water, spend time with their family, and either participate in an activity they love or hopefully try a new activity.
Nick, that sounds great. Keep up the good work. The website here for mioutdoors.org, or check out freep.com/MWC Fish Contest. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 2 stations, the Twister 92.1 WTWS and Powerhouse Station 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC AM and FM, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Ishpeming on WIAN 1240 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. This week's question comes to me from Dale Boudry. And Dale says, Mike, a couple of guys at work and I were wondering if you had any information on the early antlerless deer season. One question is it open to all Lower Peninsula counties? Can you use a bow during the early hunt? And also, can you use a private land doe tag even though you're hunting on private land? I appreciate any info. So what I did was I directed it. Obviously, I don't know the answer to this, but I directed this question to Chad Stewart, who is the big game specialist for the DNR. Chad says, hey, Mike, yes, it's open to all Lower Peninsula mainland counties, not the islands, though. He also says, in reference to can you use public land doe tag even though you're on private land, he says, Chad says, from the DNR, you cannot use public land antlerless tags as it's a private land only hunt. However, you can use either tag of your combo or your deer license in that hunt on an antlerless deer. Just know, though, that by punching that tag on a doe, it takes a buck opportunity away later in the year. And I did not get an answer back on whether you can use a bow or not, but I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. Aren't these... I know when they come up with these rules and regulations, they try to make them as clear and simple and succinct as possible. But I look at some of these and they are hard to figure out. And I think next week I'll talk about an issue that I'm running into with baiting using a barrel on private land in the Upper Peninsula. And the rules read one way, the local COs told us something else, and I just clarification from that on that in Lansing as well. Also, Dale goes on to say, hey, Mike, my roommate and I go to LSSU, Lake Superior State University, and this past Sunday, we were on our way back up to school, and we had to stop for a bull elk about to cross the freeway in front of us. He said, I got a short clip of it, and he sent me that clip. He said, but what I'm wondering is why the elk antlers had no velvet on them. And Dale is saying, well, obviously that means that he hasn't dropped them yet, right? And he says he's done a little research, and it seems most Michigan elk drop their antlers between March and April. So Dale's trying to figure out, why does this thing have hard antlers already? Why is there no velvet? And if you were with us in the first hour of the show, you heard DNR biologist Brian Mastenbrook tell us that the elk rub out their antlers before whitetails do, because the elk rut, the elk breeding season, is coming up in mid-September. The whitetail breeding season doesn't happen until the end of October or early November. So that would make sense. So Dale, I hope this answered your questions. Dale Beaudry, and Dale sent these to me. I think he sent them to me as a Facebook message. If you would like to send me a question for the Ask Avery segment, I would encourage you to do that, well, just about any way you want to reach out to me. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. You can always reach me there for questions about the Ask Avery segment, for questions about the show, for comments, questions about something that I said. You want clarification, you want more information. And I do try to stay up on that digital correspondence as much as I can. If you send me an email and I don't respond in what you would consider a timely manner, and of course that's going to be subjective, it's going to vary, right? But I'm not going to get back to you in 6 hours necessarily, and I might not get back to you in the next day. But if I don't get back to you in a few days and you want to follow up on it, please send me a follow-up email, and in the subject line of that email, put, "Hey, stupid." That way I will know it slipped through the cracks, and I will get to it right away. Please don't send your first email with the subject line, "Hey, stupid," though, because that tends to not start our conversation off on the best foot. You can always hit me up on the social media outlets as well. I get a lot of questions sent to me via private message on Facebook, and feel free to do that as well. So thank you to Dale Beaudry for this week's Ask Avery segment question. And thank you to Chad Stewart from the DNR for answering the first part of that, and to Brian Mastenbrook from the DNR for answering the second part of that about elk antlers not being in velvet now. And a reminder, and I misspoke earlier in the first hour, and I know this is a pet peeve of mine. Deer do not have horns. Deer have antlers. The difference is horns don't drop. Sheep have horns. They don't shed them every year. Elk, moose, whitetails, muleys, they all have antlers. Antlers drop. So when you talk about hard-horned, meaning no velvet, I understand what you're saying, and I even used the term earlier, but it's really not accurate. Horns don't drop like sheep. They don't drop. But whitetails, moose, muleys, elk, they drop. So they're antlers. And thank you to our friends at Security Credit Union for helping to make this week's Ask Avery segment possible. You can check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 3, the man himself, Lance Valentine, right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Forward Corporation and T.R. McTaggart, Angler Quest Boats, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, 29 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan. And glad to have you along with us. Can you believe that next weekend is Labor Day weekend already? Man. Now, I know there's still lots of great summertime weather to come, but there's no doubt here in Michigan, when we hit Labor Day weekend, it's kind of the unofficial end of the holiday season, or the summer season, right? I mean, kids that go back to school, whatever that looks like this fall. But, you know, family vacations are pretty much over in large part, and, you know, we tend to move into fall. I'm excited about fall, you know, for bear hunting season and some other things as well, but as I look back on this summer season, And my summer walleye trolling season on Saginaw Bay is over. There is some great fishing yet to come on Saginaw Bay as we get into the fall. But, for me, my summertime season on the Angler Quest, it's over now. The fishing has really slowed down. I can't complain, though. After getting off to a slow start, because the boat basically was in quarantine, the Angler Quest was in quarantine at Linwood Beach because of the governor's orders. But I did get it out a couple of weeks later than I wanted. And the fishing for me was good. I had a really good, fun, enjoyable, productive season. But, now it's time to look at other things, maybe even perch. Maybe perch. As much as I love to fish, and I do, and I did get my captain's license. I'm a licensed captain now. I could be a charter captain if I wanted to, but I choose not to for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't think I'm a good enough fisherman. And though I love to take people out fishing, when I take people out fishing, I feel the pressure to catch them fish. And that in some ways, I don't want to say diminishes the experience for me, but it certainly changes the experience for me. So I have nothing but respect for my friends who are charter captains, including a man Lance Valentine, Lance of Walleye 101 and Teaching Fishing, who is actually with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Lance, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
Wonderful. I think when I talked to you yesterday, were you salmon fishing?
Actually, I'm getting ready to head up. So we're actually leaving. I don't know how your timeline works. We're leaving today.
So by the time,
we're going to run for about. Yeah.
Are you going to run charters over there?
Yeah. So a friend of ours, Lance Keene, has 2 boats, and he's got a couple trips. He's got a couple double days booked. So we're going to run a couple charters on Thursday and Friday, and we're fishing a salmon tournament with him and his dad on Saturday and Sunday out of Manistee. So yeah, it'll be a nice little change of pace.
So are you taking the Angler Quest over there, or using one of Lance's boats?
Yeah, no. Lance has got a 32-foot tier that he runs as the main boat. He's got a 26-foot something or other that he has as a second boat in the water. So we're going to take the small 26-footer.
Yeah, the small boat. Will that be weird for you to jump on a different boat? I mean, will there be a period of a couple of hours of acclimation, or what will that be like?
I've ran that boat before, so I don't. It's been a couple of years, but it might take a half hour to kind of figure out. Every boat has a different feel, right? You could hop in my Angler Quest and it feels different than yours does, and vice versa, because every boat has its own little personality. And but I think we'll figure it out fairly quick. It's still a boat. We're still fishing, and we got all the gadgets, all the tools to make sure we're doing it right. So it should be fun. Be a nice little change of pace.
Well, and I think of you as a walleye guy. I don't think of you as a salmon guy. Is there a change in mindset that you need to use to go over there and catch kings, or is trolling, regardless of what the species is?
It's 100%, how we teach and fish. We teach our 8-step process, right? Be in the right location, be in the right depth of water, figure out how deep the fish are, get your lure speed right, and get your lure size, shape, action, color right. Those 8 steps. Those apply if you're sitting on a bucket ice fishing for bluegills, and they apply if you're 500 miles offshore fishing for blue marlin in the ocean. So fishing is fishing. It's just, obviously the lures change, the paying attention to details, the current, which way the current's coming is a lot more prevalent in salmon fishing than it is in shallow water walleye fishing like we do. Getting the right color, getting the right speed. But it's all, fishing is fishing. The things that are important. Walleye fishing on Saginaw Bay are just as important as on salmon fishing on Lake Michigan. So it's just a matter of just a small little adjustment to the lures and the techniques, and kind of paying attention to some things you don't pay attention to. But fishing is fishing. And I think too many guys, you make a great point. I think too many guys make salmon fishing different than walleye fishing, different than bass fishing. It's all the same. You got to be in the right place with a lure that triggers and makes the fish want to bite, and you got to get your speed right. If you do that, if you get where the fish are, you get your depth control right, you get your speed control right, the lure part will take care of itself. You do those 3 things right, you're going to catch fish no matter what you're fishing for. So it's just a little switch in techniques, but I think we're going to be fine.
Well, I'm sure you will.
I'm betting we're going to have a good trip.
Well, I'm sure you will. Now listen though, if you're over 200 feet of water, How do you know what those currents are doing underneath you? How do you figure that out?
So, the way, if you don't have the right tools, the way is to kind of watch your lines in the same way we do walleye trolling. Watch your offshore boards. Some might be closer to the boat, some might be further away. They might be falling further behind the boat. The best way to do it, without question, is some kind of tool. And Lance uses a fish hawk. It's something I have a small fish hawk on my Angler Quest. And basically, a fish hawk is a probe that goes in the water, and it measures depth, temperature, and speed where the probe is. So we put it on a downrigger ball. We drop it down to different depths and kind of see where, number one, we want to find our temperature break, where the right temperature is, and where that temperature is good, but also where the temperature is good and it breaks from a higher temperature. So that edge is important. And then we can put that probe down different depths where we're fishing. We can actually see if the probe is going faster or slower than our GPS speed is, and then we can get an idea of if we're going into or with a current. So all those little tools help. We use fish hawks. There's another product on the market called a Smart Troll, which is a little probe that actually goes on each of your lines. It actually goes in line. Looks about the size of about half a pencil. Goes in line and sends back data from each lure. So those two products, the fish hawk or Smart Troll, are great for measuring how deep your lure is and how fast they're actually going.
Well, you certainly picked a great time to be over there because Saginaw Bay has really slowed down, but there is no better time of year than right now to catch a big king, is there?
No, the third week of August through about the second week of September seems to be ideal. The Saginaw Bay fishing is picking up just a touch. It's starting to kind of to roll back up. But I enjoy kingfishing. We usually go over every year. I usually take the teaching fishing staff over for 2 or 3 days to fish with Lance. So this year just kind of worked out that he had a couple extra charters that needed to be ran, and we had a tournament coming. So we pushed our trip back 1 week so we could kind of make it basically a whole week of fishing. So if guys like to make that transition from walleye to salmon fishing, you're right. You can't pick a better time than right now to be over there.
Well, and as much as I love walleye fishing, there is nothing like having even a 20-pound king on the end of your line. It's night and day. We look at our boards, our offshore boards, and go, is there a fish on that? When you're salmon fishing, you don't worry about that, do you?
You do not. Your first thought is, I wonder if I'm ever going to get that board back. It's definitely a different feeling. For someone like me who, I spent all my summer, I don't catch a fish usually most years. From my last day on Detroit to my first day on Detroit the next year. Very rarely do I handle fish in that, end of May until 1st of April the next year. Very rarely do I handle a fishing rod. So those couple of days we get a chance to go over and go salmon fishing. I get a chance to actually fish, catch some fish, feel the fish kind of pull. So yeah, it is nice. If you are a walleye guy or a perch guy or even a bass guy, there's nothing like the power of a 15, 18, 20, 25-pound king. You catch an occasional steelhead. Even a big lake trout gives you a little bit of fight if you got it on the right gear. So there's just something about those big, strong, heavy fish that should get every fisherman excited.
And they're more accessible right now to the average, to any angler, the small boat angler, the pier fisherman, the drowned rivermouth angler. I mean, this is the time of year when anybody can get at them.
Yeah, you can usually draw a 3-mile circle from any river mouth, and there's going to be salmon in that circle most of the day. Sometimes a little harder to catch. And now, the guys, we're starting to see more guys on our side of the lake. This is a big thing in Wisconsin, but more guys are casting jigging spoons for these fish off boats at the mouth of the river. More guys are actually vertical jigging for salmon in the river or actually into the drowned rivermouth lakes on the west side. More guys are casting big crankbaits for salmon just out in the lake or off the piers. So we're getting the transition of less trolling, and more guys in small boats know that they can fish all day if they try different techniques. Don't have to go way out in the lake. So we're starting to see a transition. I think what's happening is more guys have small boats and they used to have big boats, and these guys still want salmon fish. So they're taking some of the small boat techniques, bringing them over to the salmon fishing, and actually realizing they can catch salmon just as easy as they can catching jigging spoons, doing a little bit of walleye style trolling or vertical jigging like we do in the rivers for walleye. You can do that in the right places for salmon. And boy, can you imagine a 25-pound king on a vertical jig in 25 feet of water?
We're talking with Lance Valentine of Walleye 101 and Teaching Fishing. The website's walleye101.com, teachingfishing.com. outdoormagazine.com, I think, as well. Got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. Lance is getting ready. Well, by the time you hear the show, he's in Manistee fishing Kings. Got to talk to him about that. Also, his plans to jump back to the east side of the state and do some perch charters. I'm very interested in that. More with Lance after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Saginaw on WSGW-FM 100.5. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM and in Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. From plumbing, heating, air conditioning, cooling, sump pumps, ductwork cleaning, you name it, the folks from Wilds can take care of it. Everything to keep the mechanics of your house running smoothly so you can stay comfortable and enjoy your time in your house. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's Wilds, W-I-L-D-S, wildsplumbingandheating.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and check out walleye101.com and teachandfishing.com. Those are two of the online places you'll find Lance Valentine. And I got to tell you, Lance is one of my favorite guests because he's one of my favorite people. He is so knowledgeable. It's almost scary, the amount of knowledge that Lance has about fishing. But he's always willing and, in fact, eager to share that knowledge. And that's why I love Lance. That's why I love. One of the reasons I love having you on the show here, my friend.
Well, you know me for a long time. And that's my passion, right? My passion is to help people catch more fish, and there's just so much. There's so much involved in fishing if you really want to be good at it, and that's the beauty of it is you don't have to be big, you don't have to be strong, you don't have to be fast, you don't have to be anything to be a good fisherman. You just have to pay attention, want to learn, and spend some time on the boat, do a lot of learning, and kind of apply what you learn on the boat and get better and better and better. You can be as good a fisherman as you want. Everybody that's listening can be a great fisherman. You don't have to have any physical skills to really do it. You just have to have the knowledge and the will to want to learn. And if you can do that, you got it.
You said something before the break that I want to follow up on, and you said the size of people's fishing boats maybe has changed over the years. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you remember, I mean, think of Saginaw Bay, 20, 25 years ago. I mean, everybody had, a hardtop Thompson. There were a lot of, 24, 25, 26-foot boats. There were a lot of boats that were in marinas. Now you look, I would tell you the average size boat in the state of Michigan, we have a huge number of registrations. I think either number one or number two in the country every year. I would tell you the average size boat in the state of Michigan is now around, 18 and a half to 19 feet. There's a lot of guys in 21, 22-foot, tournament-style boats. There's a lot of guys in 18-foot, big polar crafts or big wands, and they can take those boats wherever they want to go. Whereas traditionally you had a boat at Linwood and you fished out of Linwood, or you had a boat over in Manistee and you fished out of Manistee. Now a lot of anglers are on a trailer and they can go to where the hot bite is. So if they want to go jig fishing for salmon, they can go to the pier where the salmon are starting to come to the pier. If they want to go out and they want to do some trolling for salmon, they can go to the pier where the fish are a little further offshore. If they want to go walleye fishing and go jigging, they can go to St. Clair River. And the next day, if they want to go trolling for walleyes, they can go to Saginaw Bay or Lake Erie. If they want to go lake trout fishing, they can go. So we have I think our anglers are in smaller boats that are more seaworthy than some of the big boats we used to have. They're much better at handling their boats, and most of these boats are on trailers now. So we're seeing this change in fishing where I don't just go to a pier or a port and just stay there. I go to where the best bite is over the course of the year for different species, and now I can expand my enjoyment of fishing because I'm fishing where the bite is good and for a different species more often than I was if I just stayed at the same port.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. So if you get, like an 18, 20-foot polar craft, which Apex Marine now is bought up, you could use that for just about probably literally any kind of fishing in the state.
Without question. You rig it up right. You can go salmon fishing. You can go bluegill fishing. You can go perch fishing. You can go walleye fishing. You can go lake trout fishing. And we're seeing a lot more anglers now that are more mobile, have boats that can handle big water, and had the ability and the knowledge and the tackle to do more things than just one fish out of one port at one time a year.
You mentioned perch fishing. You were telling me something the other day that really got my attention. What are you up to, Lance?
Well, unfortunately, COVID-19 has kind of changed, everybody's lives. And traditionally this time of year, I'm on the road doing distributor shows for Motor Guide, and obviously those are no longer exist. So I can't stay home, because if I'm home for more than 2 or 3 days, my wife wants to punch me. So I need to find something to do to keep me busy this year in the fall, in September, October. So we're going to do perch fishing charters out of the Angler Quest up on Saginaw Bay. So pretty excited about that.
That is exciting. And is there a better perch fishing boat than an Angler Quest?
If there is, I haven't seen one yet. I'm really excited about getting that all set up, ready to go, and being able to get that out and get perch fishing. We're gonna do trips with up to 6 anglers, like we do with our regular trolling. So you'll be able to bring the whole family. There's lots of room to move around. We got the big high rails. You don't have to worry about anybody falling over. If you don't want to stand or sit for a long time and fish, we've got the lounge chairs. There's just a lot of things that really, really make the Angler Quest an awesome boat all the time, but going to be an awesome platform to perch fish out of.
Well, how is the perch fishing on the bay these days?
It's going to be good. Guys are already starting to catch. I'm seeing guys at the cleaning station with, buckets of, 6, 7, maybe an 8-inch perch once in a while. But the guys who are really good at it, the guys that I look at to kind of help me, and the guys that I kind of think are the best perch fishermen on the lake, they're already starting to catch some, 10, 11, 12-inch perch. There was almost a 2-pound perch brought into a party store there in Linwood the other day. So the perch fishing is good. And we caught a lot of perch. I mean, a lot of perch, 10, 11, 12 inches this year, trolling for walleye. So the perch fishing's good. We're starting to see a lot of them on our graph as we finished up our walleye season. We were like, man, that's a big school of perch right there. And they're doing a little different things than they used to do. So traditional techniques, I don't think are going to catch as many, but there's a lot of perch on the bay, a lot of perch starting to move into the inner bay. So it should be a really, really good perch fishing season.
How do you know it's a school of perch as opposed to a school of baitfish?
They look different on the sonar. Perch just look different. I don't really know how to describe it over the radio, but they just look different. And the biggest tool to use for that is downscan. If you have a unit that has downscan, use that higher frequency, smaller beam. You can really narrow in. You can start to see that those fish that make up this blob are bigger marks as opposed to smaller marks like bait fish would be. So it's one of those experience things, right? The more time you spend on the water, the more pictures you look at on your screen. You drop a bait down there, and boom, all of a sudden there's a perch. Now you can kind of go, okay, that's what perch look like, and it just takes time on the water to figure out how your sonar looks. But you can definitely tell a school of perch from a school of bait once you've been on the water a little bit, and you get a little bit of experience at it.
Well, will a school of perch relate to the bottom like a school of baitfish might?
So here's what's happened in the last couple of years. So we're starting to see lots of schools, and this is where guys are making mistakes. I'm going to tell you this. If you're fishing with traditional perch rig, especially a metal spreader, and you're making sure that your sinker is on the bottom and that spreader is putting your hooks close to the bottom, you are probably really struggling with, number one, catching perch. Number two, you're definitely having a hard time catching big perch. Perch aren't living on the bottom anymore. We are seeing schools of perch in 25, 26, 27, 28 feet of water that the bottom of the school is 4 feet off the bottom. They're starting to suspend more. And I think that is a transition to the bait. The bait situation that's happened on Saginaw Bay. There's a lot more shiners. The shiner population, according to what I saw on the bay, I'm going to tell you we had 3 shiner hatches this year. So those shiners live in the middle of the water column. They don't necessarily live on the bottom. So when these fish get out in soft bottom areas offshore in 20, 25, 27, 28 feet of water, there is no bait on the bottom. The bait is all shiners suspended, in 25 feet of water. Those shiners are 15, 16, 18, 20 feet down. That's where the perch are. They're not on the bottom anymore. So we are doing, the guys who are catching perch, I'm going a little cat out of the bag here. When you perch fish, most guys fish from the bottom up. Okay, I got my perch, my bait on my sinker on the bottom, and I got a 6-inch hook and a 12-inch hook and an 18-inch hook. If you want to catch more perch this year, fish from the top down. So that means you're going to see a lot of the better perch fishermen this year fishing with slip bobbers so they can put their bait 21 feet down over 25 feet of water as opposed to being on the bottom and trying to work up from the bottom. So just something to kind of file away. Start thinking about how deep your bait is from the top, not how far off the bottom it is, because more perch are off the bottom now than ever. And if you're on the bottom, you're probably not going to catch those jumbos out of the school that you're looking for. So just something to kind of pay attention to.
If you're fishing with a slip bobber, you're going to be limited to just the one hook, though, right?
No, absolutely not.
No?
You can run. What we do is we run 6-pound braided line. So it's a very, very stiff line, right? And it transmits a lot of feel back. Same thing we use for jig fishing. And then we tie a fluorocarbon leader that's about 4 feet long. And then off of that, we just attach hooks. You can attach 3 hooks onto that. And then when you drop your slip bobber to the depth, you now have 3 hooks within about 1.5 feet of that depth.
Gotcha. So then when you're fishing for suspended perch, are you jigging the baits or just leaving them motionless?
Usually we'll just take a slip bobber, throw it over the side of the boat, stick the rod in a track stack rod holder, and wait for the bobber to go under. It's really not much harder than that. There are days you'll get a little wind and the bobber will move a little bit. Anybody that's ever perch fished or pan fished knows that sometimes that bobber moving is good. And there are times you can take your rod and pick your bobber up and drop it back down. And so I'm not going to tell you that there's not going to be days that is going to be good. There's days that probably will help you catch more fish, but most days we're just setting that bobber out there. We'll let it sit there for a couple of minutes, waiting for it to go down. If it doesn't go down in a couple of minutes, picking it up and flipping it back out there.
Well, it does sound interesting. Yeah.
I like when I make you go, huh?
Which is just about every time we talk, Lance. Because, and I'm saying, this time is because I really want to spend some time this fall on the bay chasing perch. And to be honest with you, I haven't had a lot of luck in the past. So I'm excited that you're going to be out there. I'm going to learn from you, as I often do, and I appreciate that.
My pleasure. Yeah, I'm excited about it. A lot of my walleye customers, want to perch fish. A lot of them have young kids, so they come on a walleye trip, and we start talking about perch fish. Oh, I'm going to bring the grandkids. So I'm sure it'll test my patience a little bit, but I'm sure we're going to have a really, really good time doing it. Now the only bad part about perch fishing nowadays on Saginaw Bay and even Lake Erie is the perch aren't in big schools like they used to be. So to get a bucket of, let's say, get a bucket of 50 good perch, you may have to move the boat 15 times.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to find a spot, sit down, anchor, and catch 50 perch off a spot. That's not going to happen. You're going to find a pod. You're going to fish it for 15 minutes. You're going to get the 6 or 8 biters. You're going to have to move, a quarter mile, find another pod, catch 5 or 6 biters. Move a mile, find another pod, catch 7 or 8. Move a half mile. So there's a lot more physical movement to perch fishing than there ever used to be because they're not in these big giant schools anymore. The same way the walleyes aren't.
Lance, listen, you and I, I'm out of time, but you and I will stay in touch as the fall progresses. Lance Valentine of Walleye 101, teaching fishing, good luck salmon fishing, and especially good luck perch fishing as well. More after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us in Mount Pleasant on WMMI AM and FM 830 AM 92.3 FM. And you can hear us on our flagship station, News Radio 790 WSGW. I say flagship with no disrespect to any of our affiliates, but I'm in the studios of SGW right now, of course, while I'm here for this 3 hours. It's called the Outdoor Magazine Studio. Charlie Root in here with me as he turns to the adoring crowd. You can hear the... There it is. That's the adoring crowd cheering for Charlie Root. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and garden because it's your nature and our nurture. I'm trying to find what the topic is this week. I just got the email a couple of minutes ago, so this is on me. I apologize. This is so professional. I can't believe it. How have I been doing this for so many years? I don't remember, but I can't find the email. This time of year, oftentimes it's lawn rejuvenation, regeneration, fall cleanup. Well, we're a ways from fall cleanup yet. Water features are a big deal. We've had the folks from Reader do a lot of different work at our house for so many different years, and I'm not going to be able to find it, and I apologize for that. So, Paul, it's on me. ReaderLandscaping.com is the website, ReaderLandscaping.com. Mowing, lawn maintenance, sprinklers. They're doing a lot of work these days. Reader is at vacation property up north, so whether you're up north or whether you're home, small property or large, water features, you name it, pools, fireplaces, fire pits, outdoor fireplaces, the folks at Reader can help you out. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's Reader Landscaping, R-E-D-E-R, readerlandscaping.com. I need to follow up on this week's Ask Avery segment, where one of the questions was, can you use archery equipment during the early bow season? And when I first did this, we didn't know the answer to it. I just got a text from Chad Stewart from the DNR. He says, okay, he just confirmed archery can be used, C-A-N, can be used during the early antlerless season, which is what he thought, and which I thought too. He says, note that, however, hunters must wear orange during that season, even if hunting with a bow. So that's like the regular firearm season. You can bow hunt during the 15-day gun season, but you have to wear blaze orange. So that's the same thing with this. So thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. Also, well, first of all, I really enjoyed Lance Valentine's comments about perch fishing and how to fine-tune that presentation. It used to be you went out with a perch spreader and a egg sinker and you dropped it on the bottom, and that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, and maybe that's why I can't catch any perch. So I'm going to try those tactics, those techniques. As I look at my list here, a couple of more things I want to talk about. Well, next weekend is Labor Day. Can you believe that? Last gasp of the unofficial summertime season. It's been such a weird year. I mean, we're only basically three quarters of the way through 2020, and I think all of us can't wait to see it gone. I've never felt this way about time before, but this is a year I just want to see gone. I want to see it in the rearview mirror and move on. I'm getting ready for the fall for some perch fishing on Saginaw Bay, also for a bear hunt in the UP. I was in the UP last weekend. I met my guide, Johnny Bowler, for the first time in person. What a great guy. What a great, great guy. We set up a couple of blinds. Our thinking is you set the blinds up early and you let the bears get used to them, even knowing that there's a chance that because bears are so curious, they just might have their way with your blinds. So far, one of my blinds has been hit but not destroyed. The other one hasn't been touched yet. And the bears are coming into the bait, so it's not like the blinds have scared the bears away. They don't. They'll get used to them. Another school of thought was don't put that blind up until the night you're going to hunt. Well, my thinking, and I'm not saying that I'm a bear hunting expert, my thinking is if the bears are going to come in there and see that, and it's going to spook them away from the bait, well, why not put it up early and let the bears get used to it? But there are a couple of schools of thought on that. Speaking of blinds, Primal Tree Stands has extended the promotional price on their Wraith 270 see-through blinds. These things are pretty sweet. If you go to the website outdoorpregame.com, that's outdoorpregame.com, use the promo code Mike20, you can get one of these blinds for $200. It'll be a $20 charge when you make the order. The remaining $180 or so, I think there's some tax or shipping there or whatever, but it comes out to just more than $200. But basically $200. The remainder will be billed to you when they ship the blinds, and they're shipping blinds now. Outdoorpregame.com, outdoorpregame.com. Use the promo code Mike20, and you can get one of these blinds for $200. I don't have time to get into it right now, so I'm going to follow up next week. But Johnny and I had some questions, Johnny Bowler and I, about using barrels on private land to bait bears. And we couldn't find an answer on this, so I actually went to the highest levels of the DNR in Lansing, and we've got what we think is a definitive answer. and it doesn't necessarily agree with what you might be reading in the Bear Hunting Digest. I will follow up on that next week. If you're all interested, make sure you're with us next week to try to figure this out. Reading the game guide, the hunting guide, is sometimes, let's just say it's interesting. We'll take a break. When we come back, wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Glad to have you along with us as we celebrate the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle. Part of that tradition is sometimes you want to take this outdoor experience full circle. I'm talking about if you're hunting or fishing. And non-hunters and anglers need to realize the definition of success does not mean that you're always going to shoot something or catch something and bring it home. But sometimes that does happen. And what a wonderful experience that is to bring everything full circle, to take this fish or wild game and to put it on your table and feed your family. And nobody knows more about that than wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, who's with us once again. David, welcome back.
Hey, thank you for the kind words, Michael.
Well, listen, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Wild game chef extraordinaire. You've been doing this forever. You've been doing it since you were a kid, and you're not a kid anymore, Dave.
Over 50 years.
50?
Hey, it sounds terrible, don't it?
No kidding. Oh, that's something to be proud of, my friend.
Okay. I am.
Yeah, you should be.
I'm happy to be where I'm at and my accomplishments.
Well, good.
To relate back to the general public through you and the restaurant. Thank you.
You're breaking up a little bit, David, but I got the gist of what you're saying. Have you been out on the bay? Have you been out fishing at all since we talked last?
No. I had a little procedure, so I'm not allowed to be on rough waters. So.
Well, get that taken care of, get healed up, so you can get back at it.
That's right. As soon as got another week or two or so, then I'll be out there with my buddy Gary.
Well, in the meantime, how about a walleye recipe?
We do have a great one. This is what we've done at the restaurant for years and years. It's the nutty walleye with shrimp. And you could use either the pecan meal or the almond meal. You can buy that at any good grocery store. You know, it's pretty easy to come by. Or you can take a food processor and pulverize your own. Just give it nice little short burps, you know, like that. And so you don't, if you get it too hot, it wants to heat up and kind of almost melt. So you need about 8 to 10 ounces of boneless, skinless per person. Say for 4 people, like this recipe is going to be for, you're going to need at least a cup, maybe a cup and a quarter of the almonds or the pecan meal, half to 3/4 of a jar of chicken gravy. Or if you wanted to, you could actually boil down the bones and the head and strain it to a hairpine sieve and then thicken it up with cornstarch. You could use that too. 1 to 2 cloves of garlic or more, depends on if you like it. You're going to need about 3 shrimp per person. Nice sizes would be great. You want to slice them down the middle so that they're going to open up, not all the way through down to the tail. You leave the tail piece on it. You need a small onion diced fine, a couple 3 ounces of heavy cream, Malibu rum or Myers. Either one makes this dish just great. Flour, a couple eggs, and olive oil. So you're going to dredge the fish in the flour and then shake that up good and then dip it in the egg and then kind of milk down the majority of the egg. So when you roll this in the pecan meal, you're only going to do the rib side. So what you're going to do is in a medium hot pan, not too hot, you're going to take and put the breaded side down because when you're going to bake this and cook it a little bit more, you don't want it to brown. So you're going to, when it's nice and golden brown, turn it over, cook it just a little bit more, put it on a baking sheet, and in the same pan, wipe it out a little bit. Saute the onions and garlic kind of slowly. Add the gravy, add the shrimp, heavy cream, and rum. If you do that in that order, you're not going to have a big flare up. You want to cook this down to about half volume. bake the fish only about 6 to 10 minutes with 350 degrees open. Then you want to place the fish on a plate and then arrange the shrimp on top. Man, is it a good dish, I'm telling you. We've sold it for 20 years at the restaurant or more.
No, that sounds outstanding. And, you know, we've talked about this before, but if a walleye is one of those fish, it's pretty hard to screw up, isn't it?
It is. Even, you know, say you could deep fry it and it just comes out great, or pan sear it, flour, egg, medium hot pan, cook it on one side for 3 or 4 minutes, turn it over, cook it 3 or 4 minutes on the other side, let it set a minute, and it's ready. No sauce or any sauce. You can make a little bit of white wine, lemon, and butter, cook it down, and there you got a nice sauce to go with it.
Well, and
it's so mild and so adaptable to any flavor you want to make, whether it's hot and spicy or sweet or a little tart with lemon. You can't go wrong.
how about next week? Let's do a perch recipe. We were just talking with Lance Valentine about perch fishing. It's getting to be that time of year. And you know, everybody just wants to deep fry them, bread them and deep fry them, and that's wonderful. But why don't you come up with something we can do for perch that's a little bit out of the ordinary?
I got one with capers.
Perfect.
Caper sauce that is just killer.
Perfect. Let's do that one next week, Dave.
I've been fishing with. They got some 12 inchers the other day. They limited out.
Excellent.
Big whoppers in 14 foot of water off of Pinconning.
I'd like GPS coordinates, please. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. Thank you, David. As are you. If you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do the show. Check out the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Join me during the week on social media outlets. Just about all of them. I'm there. And enjoy this last unofficial week of the summer. And we'll talk with you next time, Labor Day weekend, right here. Oh, you can always reach me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't forget about that, too. And we'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.